The consensus conference as a method for citizen engagement was invented by the Danish Board of Technology in 1987. Here, a small group of laypeople seeks to reach consensus on policy recommendations within a certain topic based on discussions with experts and stakeholders. This Danish version of the consensus conference has been used widely internationally.
The consensus conference has basically been used all over the world, on all continents, many times. And interesting enough, it has also been, you could say, the background for new methods. For example, the citizen assembly methodology is very much built on the ideas of the consensus conference, the way the citizens work together, their impact on the content in the process, and so on. But in the citizen assembly process, they do not seek for, you could say, actual total consensus. They seek for a large majority around the participating, around 100 citizens that back up different conclusions. The consensus conference typically has 12 to 16 lay people members in the panel. And well, many people could say, well, that's not much in a normal survey. In Denmark, we typically have a little lower than 2,000 people that are asked in such a survey or on poll. But the special thing about the consensus conference is that you do not go for a representative sample, you go for a diverse sample. So the 12 to 16 people, they are simply selected so that they are so different as they can be with regard to demographic variety. But also sometimes you pick people who have chosen a different way in life. For example, a woman has chosen to be a blacksmith, or, I mean, choices that are not so normal in order to have this diversity in the panel. And the idea behind that is that if a panel of, let's say, 14 people can create consensus, 14 people that have such a big diversity, if they can create 100% consensus on their on expressions, then these expressions will probably hit a very large part of the population as well.
A consensus conference strives for reaching the highest possible denominator. How far can each participant go before they stop concurring to a recommendation? The last point before one of the participants says, "I do not agree with this recommendation," is the highest common denominator. When we strive for this, we try to find the point before opinions diverge in order to create a solid and ambitious basis for agreement.
They begin to discuss with those who stick a little out and say, well, if we change our position a little like this, can you then be in the group still? And they do that so that they get higher and higher, further and further towards solving their problem. And at the point where one of them says, no, I cannot go further now, that's the point you describe. And that's what you could call the highest possible denominator. That's very different from, for example, what happens in a focus group. Because in a focus group, you ask people of different positions, and each time someone sticks out, then you register that as part of the result. You do not try to make the opinions converge and to a higher level. So I think that's very specific with the consensus conference, that we simply seek agreement on this very high level of converged opinions.
But how can normal people who are not specialists in any way contribute to solving modern political issues which are so complicated?
Modern politics are very complicated. They're very complicated from many points of view. We have new technologies, fast shifts in our society, high transitions, big crises. We cannot solve problems locally. We have to orient ourselves to Europe, to the whole world. There's so many things that need to be embraced when you have to find a solution. And that's exactly why we need a consensus conference. Because many other methods of finding opinions, for example, polls, they just take people's opinion where they are and what they think of in the specific moment. Here we inform people, they grab the complexity, they take a responsibility for the complexity. And when they discuss, the discussion is basically about this complexity and how you can find solutions in such a high complexity.
There is never a one-size-fits-all. The consensus conference is a very useful method for engaging citizens in some cases and not in others.
I think nowadays political processes are complex. They deal with very difficult problems. When we vote in Denmark each 4 years, we vote for a party, and this party has a certain approach to solving. It might be an ideology, or it might be other approaches to solving political problems. But on the specific level, we do not vote. So as citizens, we want to have a say also on, how to deal with problems in the marine environment, how to deal with gene technology in the future, with artificial intelligence, with development of our cities and complex problems. And we don't vote about that. We vote on parties. So this is a way to include people and inform parties about how people are thinking, which kind of solutions then they think should be implemented on specific areas where we need to find solutions in our society. And these consensus conferences, they have ended up with new laws, with big companies changing out their strategies. For example, in the field of gene technology, it has had big influence on, for example, the pharmaceuticals sector. But I think the largest effect on politics is more subtle, and is about that after a consensus conference, the politicians has a reference that they can use in their discussions. They can see that someone now, lay people now, made a coherent outcome here. So it simply influences their way of discussing it, on the way of thinking of if there are solutions to these things. Can we break through before they begin to negotiate from their different positions?
You can find more information about the Consensus Conference and all the other citizen and public engagement methods that the Danish Board of Technology has been using for the last 30 years. Or you can contact one of our experienced project managers. Take a look at techno.dk for further information.